safest in the region, and this led many players who considered themselves to be bad at PvP to move there.
Hey, that's a nice house you made there, Fortune.
Again, many other towns also began popping up around the area, such as the Jevelis, a religious town whose members preached about a deity they called Jevel, and another group named Los Salvadores, or their more fitting acronym LSD. The LSD players lived in rocks, and they were a particularly combat-oriented group. They actually openly described themselves as mercenaries for hire. However, by now, small groups like these began to make up the vast minority, as the power of the larger settlements quickly outgrew these smaller groups, as the players all wanted the unmatched safety and popularity that living in the big towns provided. Through Discord, Krivy was informed of the massive western settlement in a faraway land that kept growing faster and faster. Krivy quickly decided that forming an alliance with such a powerful group would be beneficial for his own dreams of political power and glory. So, he reached out to the leaders of the Western settlement. After a long discussion on Discord, they finally reached an agreement. Krivy decided to fully assimilate with the Western settlement in return for political power. Krivy and his men sailed across the ocean, bringing with them all of their wealth and resources. With their arrival, the population of the town was bursting at the seams as a massive amalgamation of 3 different cultures emerged. Far away from the order, the religious Jevelis town stayed at a moderately sized population, but their made-up religion was made fun of by their neighbors. LSD had recruited a few of the most serious PvPers on the server, and as they passed the time waiting for someone to hire their mercenary services, they frequently got into quarrels with Jevelis civilians. As these groups of players grew, the Merchants Guild's members began to make a considerable amount of Wix profits. However, there had been some unexplained murders in the area, and some of the Merchant Guild's items and traders were frequently robbed by bandits or even Jevelist players.
Do you need something? I'm from Mindless's Merchant Guild, if you need anything. What? Why?
My enemies will choke on their own blood. We must conquer or die!
Seeking to change this, a new faction called the Targon was formed out of the players of the Merchants Guild, paid for by a few rich merchants. Targon sought to establish themselves as a stronghold of defense and military strength, and using their merchant enterprise, hired LSD to put down a strong rule of law with the hope of protecting their trade. At the start of Day 3, the residents of the western city gathered in the center of the town to hold an establishment of a new government. To officially matriculate Krivy as the leader of the city, Krivy, Kilkard, and Emperor Zarkar rallied together the players and declared the nation to be called the Squid Union. They were not the only settlement to be having political reform. Across the world, elections were held to solidify power structures. Community democratically voted in Koniri to act as the mayor and voice of the community, while Triple Lion would be the shield.
Different architectural styles. Let's check it out.
Targon developed plans to expand their trade to all corners of the world, no matter the cost. And a player named Nixunari became the new face of the organization as Mindless took on less responsibilities. The whole world was now at a time of peak efficiency, where players were working together to maximize their gear, houses, and other possessions. Inside these high-functioning nations across the map, impressive build projects were constructed, paid for by Wix income. At this time, the world entered what could only be described as the Golden Era.
Ich mag scheitern, aber ich gebe niemals auf.
In the Far East, an economically struggling Yeast found itself offered a lifeline by Targon. Without nearby civilizations, Yeast had suffered from limited trade and growth. Targon offered economic and military support to Yeast in exchange for their unwavering commitment to a permanent alliance. Yeast's leaders eventually agreed, and soon after, Targon had assembled the most widespread alliance in the world. The Gevolus town soon began finding itself in problems. The issue of the Gevolus robbing merchants and murdering players was becoming a topic of debate across the world.
Yeah. But you said you have proof of the Gevolus raiding you guys, right?
Yeah.
Concerns were raised in Targon leadership about the stability of the region if these problems were to continue. Koniri, valuing peace, urged Targon to avoid any unnecessary escalation with the Gevolus.
I'm going to have to talk to their leadership. This is setting